Hi, I'm Hadeel. I'm a volunteer with Parents Helping Parents. And today we have Kat Kanana, who will talk to us about shelter-in-place strategies. Kat has been a volunteer with Parents Helping Parents for more than 4 years. When her son was diagnosed with autism over 10 years ago, she struggled to maintain her family daily needs on top of learning all she need to help her son. As a former CPA, she used her organizational skills and financial knowledge to help her cope with the autism paperwork. Along with this, she put systems in place so she could focus on her goals one day at a time in order to write the best-selling book and volunteer as an autism support group facilitator. She lives with her husband and 3 kids in San Jose. Welcome, Kat.
Thanks, Adil. Okay, let's jump right in here. Today's topic, shelter-in-place strategies for you and your families. The presentation was broken up into two parts. And the first part is self-care and strategies for you. And I think that's really important to focus on you first. And then the second part of the presentation, which would be at another time, is shelter-in-place strategies. And really, they're strategies for any kind of overwhelming situation. So they're strategies for your family. So let's start with, like I said, the first one of taking care of you. So my first tip for taking care of you would be to get to bed early. And although it seems like that's not a self-care strategy, this is going to fill up your bucket more than anything else. And to do that, there's several things that you can try doing. And one thing I would recommend is getting ready with your kids. So as you're helping them with brushing their teeth, getting them, their baths, getting their pajamas on, that would be the time you're in the bathroom anyway, get your own teeth brushed, get your contacts out, do all the things that you would do to get yourself ready for bed so that once they are in bed, that is off of your checklist. And that's one less thing that has to come into your own personal time. And that would be already handled. The other thing to do is once they're tucked away into bed is to set a timer. So I have little timers in my house everywhere. And I have one, of course, on my phone, but I have them scattered throughout the house. And the automatic thing I will do is set a timer for 30 minutes. And the reason why I do that is oftentimes whatever you start doing once you put the kids down, whether it be you sit down to check your email or you go to clean up the kitchen or you're tidying up the living room, somehow the time just slips away and maybe you got sidetracked because you saw a magazine article or the phone rang. Something happens that you maybe got sidetracked. That timer will bring you back to what was I doing? What was my task at hand? And really making sure you get that accomplished. So when that timer goes off, be mindful of the time and maybe set it again for another 30 minutes, whatever amount of time you're giving yourself to get that next task done. And then the third thing would be to already have recurring alarms set. So in my smartphone, I have a time set for when I'm going to put my kids to bed. And so I've already figured out what is the best time to start that process. Because if I don't have that reminder, sometimes things are going great that night. We're all doing something really great. But if I don't have that reminder there, we'll lose track of the time and then we're all going to go to bed late. And if they go to bed late, then I'm going to bed even later. So having that recurring alarm for when they need to get the process started to go to bed. And then I have another alarm for when I need to start my own process of going to bed. And so those two key alarms are recurring in my phone every single night. They come up and that really helps me get to bed on time. So going on to the next tip would be to fill up your tank. Oh, I'm sorry about that. I accidentally hit my mouse and that jumped forward. And this can be done in many ways. And these are just a few things that I put up there. And I would say, don't jump into all of these things, but maybe select one thing that really resonates with you and looks interesting to you. So I'm just going to go through them briefly because I'm sure for yourself, you already have something maybe in mind that you're like, this is what I would do if I had 5 minutes or 10 minutes. This is what I would do, would fill up my tank. And maybe you're not doing that because you feel like I don't have time for that. And I want you to know that making that a priority for yourself is going to give you so much more time in so many other ways because you'll be so much more grounded and focused during the day. Versus if you didn't do it, it's kind of constantly coming back to you like, I wish I could do that. I wish I could do that. And really your mind is not focused on what you have in front of you. So putting that front and center that I am going to do this, whether it be 5 minutes or 15 minutes or however much time it's going to take, when you're going to do it each day, That's going to help ground you, that you don't have to keep trying to figure out in your brain, because really your brain is always trying to do these things and trying to figure out how you can work it in. So the things that really fill me up, one of them is meditation. And so for me, I do this in the morning, and it's at a minimum, it's 5 minutes. Sometimes it's 15 minutes, and sometimes it's 15 minutes in the morning. And if I can get in 5 or 15 minutes at night, that's great. But at a minimum, I do 5 minutes in the morning. And there's several apps out there that are free, and they usually have a bunch of free meditations on there for you to try. And then if you like it, then you can do the paid version. But really, there's several out there to try. The second thing would be a gratitude journal. And I started doing this for multiple reasons. I started with a paper journal, and I would write down 3 things that I really was grateful for from the day before. And it would just, anything that came to mind that I was grateful for, and I would jot that down. And then eventually I ended up switching over to the 5-minute journal, that app. And that one actually pops up with a reminder every morning. So after I finish my meditation, I go and do that 5-minute gratitude journal. And how that is really helpful is starting your day with gratitude. It has really shown that really does help you during the day to have that positive, grateful feeling. But what has also been helpful is days that, we all have a really hard day sometimes, where you're really struggling as a mom, struggling with, whether it be with a child that you're working with, whether it be with work, and you just kind of need a pick me up because you're just feeling like you're at the bottom. I will pick up my journal and I will scroll through. And with the 5-minute journal, what I love is that you can stick pictures in there, here and there. So when there was something really significant, I'll stick a picture in it, whether it be like it was Mother's Day and I took a picture. My husband takes one every year of me and the kids. I have that there. Or whether it be, we always see the sunset together when we're on vacation. So I'll stick that in there. So as I'm flipping through, I'll see these pictures and I'll stop, or I'll just stop and read several. And as I'm reading these old memories of mine, of these wonderful things I'm grateful for, it lifts me up. And this is something that I think can help you at any time, whenever you might be struggling. It's something that you can refer to. But as a daily way to start the day, it is truly a wonderful practice that really doesn't even take 3 minutes of your time. The third thing that I really love is yoga or stretching. And again, this is something that I've done yoga for years. I used to go to a gym to do it. And then motherhood came. And then, I took a break from it for a while, but I missed it. And so when I was getting back into it, I actually found some YouTube videos of yoga, sun salutations and things that I could do for 5 minutes. And so now my favorite yoga stretch daily practice is a 15-minute video that I do every day. And I absolutely love it. The next thing would be walking. And so trying to find time to get things in, like walking, I would say there's always these little pockets of time that I could find. So when I really started walking regularly was years ago, when my daughter had a volleyball practice that was at a field. And so I was like, okay, I'm here anyway. And so I would be walking around the field as many times as I could to get my steps in. Or when I was teaching one of my kids how to ride a scooter, okay, we're going to go going around the blocks. This is when I'm going to get my walk in. Or I'm walking the dog. I mean, it was always paired with something. If I couldn't just go on my own, it was always pairing it with something to get those steps in. But really, any kind of movement is going to be great for your body and your mind and your spirit. And the last thing would be eating well, because I know for myself, anytime I'm not eating well, if I go into like things that I know, I think most people, we know ourselves. We kind of know our go-to things. I just start feeling a bit heavy and it kind of slows me down. Whereas if I find that I'm eating healthier and doing things, drinking a lot of water, I just feel fresher. And I think I have a lighter step and I'm just more uplifted. So those would be my top things for filling up your tank. And then the next thing would be the silver lining. And really, it's all about your mindset. I think all of us, we all have struggles. And I think we tend to look at the next person, the mom next to us, the family across the street, and we think, wow, it seems like, they're so carefree and they don't have maybe some of the struggles that we have. But really, everybody has something. We just don't know. We're just not in their lives and we don't, see what's going on. But really, everybody has something that they have going on. So what I try to do is look at it and have a get versus have mentality about things. And so what that means is we all have the dishes to do every day. We all have laundry. We all have bills to pay, right? And so instead of saying, oh, I have to do the laundry, I have to clean up the kitchen, I have to pay these bills, really looking at it from a gratitude perspective of, I get to do the laundry because I have clothes to wear. I get to clean up my kitchen because we had a great meal. I was able to feed my family a really healthy, great meal tonight. I get to pay my bills because I have a house to, or an apartment or a place to live. I was able to buy food. And so I get to pay that bill now. So that get versus have mentality is a slight shift, but I think if you try to apply it, you can feel it in terms of looking at, okay, for myself, the big one was getting to clean the kitchen because I used to dread cleaning the kitchen. And now when I look at it as I'm so lucky that I get to clean my kitchen every night, it just is really helpful. And I also put on some fun music, and it's just much more a pleasant way to end the day. The second tip on mindset was starting your day with a hug. And this is something that I heard from, I think it was like a Selfcare meeting years ago. And the speaker was talking about starting the day with a hug with her spouse and saying that really when you hug someone, you really should make sure that hug lasts for 3 full breaths. So you're hugging that person until your breathing is regulated together and you are breathing together for 3 full breaths. And this is years ago I heard it, and I just told my husband, hey, let's try this. And we did. And the crazy thing is we just really felt it. We really felt ourselves sync up when we did that. And we've done it for years since then. And so when, he comes downstairs and, because I'm always up first, we start our day with a hug. And it just is a really positive way for us to get in sync with each other. And then same with my kids. So when they get up, the first thing they should be doing is giving me a hug, unless they have to use the bathroom first. Otherwise, they come and they give me a hug and they will sync up with me too. And it just is just such a wonderful way to start the day. And the last thing I would say is letting go of perfection. And when I say perfection, it's not even just for yourself, of you trying to do things perfectly. For me, it's just, I think it's natural. Like we want so much for our kids, and we just know they're so close for certain things that we knew that if they just did this a little differently or that, it would be, right there. And I think for myself, letting go of that perfection in them for things that they might be close on, and just celebrating wherever they are, that they're doing great in baby steps and making that, move forward, and just letting go of feeling that expectations of them, having perfection. Okay. Finally, let's see, opportunities. So because we are all home and have so much more time together. So one of the things that we have is the opportunity to work on functional living skills. And so for us, this has been a golden opportunity. So my youngest, she had started learning how to ride her bike a few years ago. And then we got sidetracked because, we got a puppy and all that. And by then, once the puppy was trained, she really didn't want to, she wasn't interested in riding her bike. So we let it go. And finally got her inspired to hop on the bike again. And within a month went from, I didn't really want to ride a bike to, okay, I like riding my bike with training wheels to, I don't need these training wheels. In fact, we're having a training wheel goodbye party ceremony. She calls it. We're doing that on Saturdays to celebrate that we're, throwing away her training wheels. And that was all because we have all this time now to work on, practice riding her bike. So also, you could be working on anything. It could be, more on brushing their teeth, taking their shower independently. It could be helping with chores around the house. I mean, there's so many opportunities at this time for things to work on with your kids, teaching them how to cook a simple meal, cleaning up, sweeping. There's just endless opportunities there. The next thing we have the opportunity is to engage in what they love to do. So I think as parents, especially as special needs parents, there are so many things that we see that our kids need to do, but really trying to take a step back and really see them as kids that love doing what they want to do, whatever they want to play, and really getting down and doing whatever it is that they want to do, whether it be building with Legos, whether it be reading certain books over and over, whether it be whatever it is, drawing, seeing and really giving yourself the time and focusing on truly what they want to do, I think will really light your child up because now that you do have more time to be with them and do that. And then the last thing would be to teach them something fun. So For myself, we've had a really great time with Shelter in Place. Since we have the time, I've been teaching them some games from my own childhood, things that I really hadn't thought about in a long time and forgot how fun they were. And so a couple of card games that we've been playing, and it's just been really fun because I just laugh so hard sometimes because I could remember my brother and I playing these games and how much fun we had. And so it's just really wonderful to play with my own kids and to see them playing with each other, these games that I just really loved. But just, yeah, if you can think back to your own child and what you really loved doing, what was fun to you. Kids love hearing about that kind of stuff. What was fun to mom and dad, and, teach me. So that would be my last tip on that. And I think that was it. So, Hadeel, did you have any?
First of all, I have to say I love the idea of the gratitude journal, and it's something I did for a while, and then I stopped doing because again our mornings are usually busy. So I do love the idea of the app, especially if it gives you a reminder in the morning, because we all can pause for a minute or two, and write these 3 or 5 or regardless of the number. The things that we are thankful for, and it does make the day go in a different way. It just
Absolutely
it sets your mind to be more thankful. So I love that idea, and the idea of the hug too. These two are things I like. The hug is I know, like, my 2 boys love to give hugs, but it's never a habit. It's never something we do every morning. So these 2 ideas are great. These are things I am gonna start doing, especially with the gratitude journal. It's something I have been trying hard to do. So the app is something that is on my phone right away.
Yeah.
So we all have really busy schedules. And one of the most challenging things is finding that time for self-care. And I think most people think of it as 30 minutes or an hour. So what do you think about that? How can we make time in our schedules for self-care?
So the first thing I would recommend is really looking at your day and really honestly looking at your day and where you're spending your time. One of the things that we can't really escape from is if you look at your smartphone and you go into settings, there is that screen time usage, and it will show you exactly how much time you're spending and where you're spending it. So you could see, oh, this is how much time was spent in social media, or this is how much time was spent on email, and this is how many pickups you've had of your phone, right? And so that would be one thing. So for the person who might be not realizing how much time they're spending on their phone each day, I think that's really helpful. Also, if somebody is spending a lot of time watching TV, setting that timer, and for maybe starting it. So maybe they're not setting a timer for 30 minutes like how I do to say, okay, you only get 30 minutes, but really pressing like a stopwatch, really, to say, okay, I'm going to start watching TV. And then really when they're done, saying, wow, maybe they didn't realize that if they were binge watching something, 3 hours has gone by. And that is time that really could have been spent better doing something else.
That's very true. So the other thing that comes to mind is we usually have a long to-do list, especially with our kids. And if by the end of the day you feel that you did not do any of the things on your to-do list, you accomplished nothing,
Right.
we still should have that time for self-care. Or should we
Yes.
focus more on that to-do list that we have?
I would say your to-do list, really looking at that. If it's the end of the day, write down the 3 things that you want to get accomplished tomorrow. And then, and that shouldn't take very long. That would take 5 minutes. And then take that next, 5 minutes to 15 minutes to do something that's self-care for you, whether it be maybe going for a walk around the block, or it's doing that meditation, or doing yoga, or whatever it is. But I think journaling even, I think that is time well spent, because no matter what, our to-do list will always be there. And even if we check those 3 things off, there's going to be another 3 and another 3. So if it's at the end of the day, just make sure you have your priorities for the next day and do something for yourself tonight. And, so you're fresh.
You hear from a lot of moms that, well, I'm okay. They need me more than I need that time. What do you think about that?
I have been there. I have been there with
I
with three kids of my own. I'm sure you have too, and it is true to some extent. You know, they yes, it's true that they won't be in our homes forever. You know, they grow up, they need us some certain times less and less. However, you are setting the example for them. And so, as you do these things that are self care for yourself, your children are actually learning wonderful habits from you. And they are very curious. So they will learn like, oh, so that's what meditation, and why do you do that, mom? Oh, that's yoga. Why do you do that? Oh, you're drinking a lot of water and you're eating, this and this, healthy things. All of these self-care things are wonderful examples of things for your children to learn and to incorporate into their lives. And if they start incorporating that into their lives at such an early age, it's just going to be second nature for them as they grow into adults themselves. And it will help them, especially, especially a lot of kids in our groups have a lot of anxiety. And these are all things that will help with that.
That's very true. Yeah. One more thing that you hear a lot is, I don't have the money,
Mm-hmm.
or the resources, or
Mm-hmm.
even if you think about spending, if you have that money and you think about spending it on something for you, like just going for a facial, which we can't do these days, you always have that second thought of, oh, I can spend it on something for my kid.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always there in the back of our mind. should
Right.
i should I spend more money on my own self-care, or do I have that money or the resources for self-care?
Well, I would say there are actually lots of things that are free. So if money really is the issue for things, there's plenty of things that are free. So like the meditation apps, there's lots that are free. They're like going for a walk is free. A lot of things on YouTube that are free. So if that is the issue, I would say do that first. But really looking at it as your self-care, if you're not taking care of yourself, it actually will, it comes back. I know from self-experience that when you're not taking care of yourself, it comes back to hurt you in terms of in your own body. You could be getting more ill. I actually had some minor skin things that started coming up on my hands. And I think it was from all the stress, because this is back when I wasn't doing any self-care. I was so overwhelmed and I had very little sleep and I was eating very poorly. So my body was reacting because I wasn't taking care of myself. And that ended up actually me taking lots of doctor's visits, going to different doctors, trying to figure out what was wrong with me, which actually added up to a lot more than if I had just taken the steps to take care of myself and do that.
Yeah, and that brings me to the last question. So you also hear a lot of, at the end of the day, I am exhausted. I don't
Yeah.
have the energy to take care of myself, to
Yeah.
have the time for self-care. So
Right.
what do you think about that?
And I would say, you're feeling that way because you're not going to bed on time. And I know it's because you feel like you have a huge list of things weighing on you and you don't have any time to yourself except for the end of the night. But try for a week setting an earlier bedtime for yourself and commit to going to bed each day, each night at that hour, and you will find you are a new person. When you have a clear head and a good night's sleep under your belt every single night for a week, you will go through whatever action items you have to do each day a lot quicker because you're so much more focused, and you will show up as really a more loving and your best self for your family the next day if you go to bed on time and you get that sleep. Yeah.
Okay. What do you think about the time? When should we give that time? Is it morning? Is it end of the day? What time do you think is best for self-care?
And I think for people, it really varies on their personalities. So for myself, I was always a night owl. And so for me, I always wanted to stay up late. And so really, it was really hard to get myself to go to bed earlier and wake up earlier. But once I shifted and, it took a few months, I really found that I liked it because I could be up before everyone. instead of being up late at night and everyone's in bed, I was actually going to bed soon after they were going to bed and then just waking up before they did. For me, that worked out better. The other thing was finding those pockets. So there's all these little pockets of time during the day that we could find to do things that I think sometimes we just think, oh no, we're waiting or we're doing this. But for me, I always utilize that time. So whether it be, my son needs 24-hour supervision. And so every time I'm actually taking him to the bathroom constantly. And so I'm waiting for him. And so instead of I used to just stand there and wait. Now I'm doing other things. I mean, it sounds silly, but I'm like doing squats, I'm doing lunges, I'm doing something. And it seems silly, but when you think about how many times I'm taking him to the bathroom every day, those 10 to 20 lunges every single time, that's how I'm getting, some of my workout time in.
Time well spent. I love that.
So it sounds kind of crazy, but that's what initially I just had to do. And then, you just get used to it. So every single time I go, that's what I'm doing. And my daughters would laugh at me, but they know mom's doing what mom's doing.
That's what they should do.
Yeah.
All right. That was great, Kat. I'm looking forward to the second part.
Great. Thanks, Hadeel.